Destroy All Humans is a complete remake from its original 2005 release. While they did make some changes to some mechanics, the base game remains basically the same as it did when it first came out. And if you're a nostalgia whore like I am, prepare for this one, honestly, it's worth it. This remake really modernizes the graphics, and it changes the game's look, and some cutscenes as well, just to make it a little bit more, cinematic. But they still use the same voice clips from the original.
How's the view from the safety of the mothership?
Very funny. Let's just say I'm glad I'm up here and you're down there.
So, you get to see the awesome, amazing remastered graphics, but it doesn't sound like you're listening it on a 200-pound, 15-inch fat fucking TV. Now you can destroy all the humans and watch all the cities crumble in super high definition. And Crypto still makes all of the same, jokes and remarks as he did in the original.
Any of those baboons laid one hairy finger on me, I'll rip them a new asshole.
The comedy in this game, honestly, in my opinion, still holds up. I love communist jokes,
There's a whole wide world out there and we're missing it.
But where can we go, Billy? This town's a one-way ticket for wild hearts like you and me.
It's tearing me apart!
What you need is a new direction.
Exactly.
A real purpose in life.
Freaking A!
Ever thought about homeland protection?
Home what?
Wise up, Romeo. There's a 500 million Reds who'd love nothing better than to rip that varsity sweater right off your back.
No kidding.
Take this little pamphlet. It'll tell you everything you need to know about protecting your little corner of the country from communist invasion.
Thanks a million, Daddy-O.
Freaking A.
Wow. There goes a real American.
A real American dreamboat. Meow.
The year is 1959, and an alien ship interferes with the United States military missile launch. The alien ship then crashes, of course, and the military surrounds and captures the little dude inside. We then meet our anti-hero Crypto and Pox. Here we learn about the Furons, and how they've achieved essentially immortality by cloning themselves. However, we learn a problem. Every time they clone themselves, the DNA that they use to clone gets more and more degraded. So we find out that the whole reason why this first alien was sent here was to look for some good, nice, clean Furon DNA, However, he also mentions that he lost contact with the guy they sent. And Crypto sees this as a perfect opportunity to go wreak some fucking havoc on this little planet.
But there's a time for thought, and there's a time for action, and this is one of those times.
Which?
The second one.
Finally, we arrive on Earth, and our first objective, of course, is to reach a form of diplomacy with the native species. After learning what we can from the locals, and our attempt of a peaceful takeover fails, we learn of another being. This one slightly more cognitive than the last, but of course only slightly. So we zap the life out of the fucking farmer, and then a few more farmers, and then we drown one for good measure, of course. Finally, someone reports the noise, and then the local police arrive on the scene, and they discover your ship. Naturally, we'll deal with them the same way, of course. And finally, just to be an alpha, you destroy the whole fucking town. And finally, the military arrives on the scene. Because of course they would. Crypto isn't necessarily one for subtlety, so. And finally, since, everybody's in fucking town and just within 5 minutes of this whole event, a mysterious group arrive on scene and witness, Crypto's antics. And this officially begins the takeover. As you progress through the game, Crypto makes his way through different parts of America on his mission to take over Earth. Through Crypto's journey, his presence become more and more aware to the public. Kinda.
You want to know what's been going on around here? I'll tell you what's been going on around here. Communism, that's what.
I had a feeling that would get him. The military will begin using new tactics to stop you, and with that, Crypto will be granted with different types of Furon weapons and abilities. Each of these do have their own upgrades that need to be purchased with DNA points. You get these by completing missions and side objectives in the open world area, but also by harvesting human brains. And of course, there's the fun anal probe. Each destination you visit usually has about 3 missions in it or so. The missions themselves are different, honestly. I liked them a lot. For the most part, they all start the same way. You're, disguised as a human, you need to sneak into an area to gather information, but they usually end in their own unique way too, and that's pretty nice. In one area, you're shutting down rumors about an alien attack. In another area, you're hypnotizing a TV personality to make them spread awareness about government abuse of power. They're cool. Fun missions, honestly. I did like the variety. I mean, of course, usually after that, you just nuke the whole area in general and then move on. But the little in-betweens are nice, and it makes for a pretty good story, in my opinion. After each mission, a newspaper article appears with a headline showing the latest cover-up job that the government does in response to your actions. I really like these a lot. They're very creative and honestly something I would expect the government to do, to be completely honest. I don't really think there was any mission I didn't like. There's probably one that I wasn't a huge fan of, and it's like this you're guiding a truck deal, but it ended really quick and it wasn't that hard, and it was over in honestly like maybe 10 minutes at most, so I can't even complain about it that much. The missions are fun. As I mentioned earlier, you earn DNA points during and after the missions. When you go back to the mothership, you get a chance to spend these points on different upgrades for either you, your saucer, or your weapon. You gain a few pretty useful abilities. First of which is psychokinesis, which allows you to pick up objects and people with your mind. That's obviously awesome. It also allows you to break down materials to make more ammo for yourself. Upgraded then allows you to pick up larger objects, which makes it even more awesome, and then you can also break down larger objects to make better ammo, so very useful. You also have the holobob, which allows you to take form of a person, and you're going to use this one a lot. Like I said earlier about getting into certain areas using a disguise, this is what that was. This ability does run out, so you're going to have to perform what's called a cortex scan to refuel your power. The cortex scan also reads out the mind of whoever you just scanned. Some of the lines are funny.
It's a good day to use excessive force. Heck, every day is a good day for excessive force.
Yeah, apparently. But they use the same voice a lot, so can get a little repetitive. And lastly, to help you get past the stealth areas, there's also a forget and distraction ability. Both of these are used to get past higher level enemies that can actually see through your disguises. After you complete an entire area and you move on to the next section, you can always go back to go to the area in a free roam section. There are different challenges for you to complete in these free roam areas. They offer higher DNA rewards for completing them. This does add some replayability, which is great. Running around, destroying all humans is honestly fun in this game, especially after you upgrade all of your abilities. You're just destroying cities, and in this game with the updated visuals, it's really, really nice to look at. The areas are so bright and colorful, and the lighting looks very nice too. The destruction is great, really. But I'll talk a little bit more about the destruction in a second. Before we get to that, we gotta talk about the weapons. Crypto doesn't necessarily have a large loadout, but he does have a very versatile one. Your starter weapon, the aptly named Zap-O-Matic, zaps the shit out of enemies. Upgrading this weapon does allow the arc to jump across multiple enemies and not lose its damage over distance. It has unlimited ammo, but it runs on a charge. Next we have the Disintegrator Ray, which fires orbs of fire death and completely renders enemies to bone and dust and ash and shit. And of course, what alien game would be complete without the anal probe, which does exactly that. And finally we have the Ion Detonator, which is dope. It acts like C4 essentially. Stick it to an object and it'll detonate over time or when you detonate it. But it does have a very large area of effect. And it has the chance of turning certain objects into ammo after its detonation. And last but not least, you also have a shield, a jetpack, and a dash ability. Your ship, of course, has its own really destructive badass capabilities. Your primary weapon is a death beam, which fires molten fire into your target. It'll leave like a scorched earth behind, so anything that touches it will burn, essentially. Next, you have the Abducto beam, which is sort of like psychokinesis. It'll allow you to pick up objects and shit whip them into buildings and other things. Your ship can also collect DNA, refill its shield, and collect ammo for itself, just like Crypto can on land. Now you have the sonic boom, which weaponizes my mixtape and it leaves this small area of destruction behind. You also have the repulsatron, which acts sort of like an anti-missile system. But finally, the big one, you have the quantum deconstructor, which is essentially a mini nuke. It literally destroys anything it hits, anything at all, any building, anything. It does, however, work on a charge, and ammo to refill this charge is kind of hard to come by. But as you upgrade the weapon, you can also store, more charges at a time, and the area of effect gets wider, and it's already big as it is, so it's just, like I said, it's a mini nuke. It's the most destruction. It's awesome. Now, here's where some of my complaints come in. This game is a true to form remake entirely. So much of me loves the fact they left everything as it was. Like, they did remake some things here and there. It was completely redone on the Unreal Engine, so they were able to tweak some mechanics and things that were obviously limited on its 2005 release versus now, of course. I think one of those things is now you can actually carry someone and still zap people. I don't think you could multitask like that in the original game. I really do commend them for leaving the game how it was, honestly. But I can't help but feel that sometimes they could have still added some more. Like, in case of the destruction, I wish it was a little bit more dynamic. I haven't been able to destroy a building as Crypto on the floor, and I've tried. I've thrown cars, I've used the, what's it called, the ion destructor. I've done it all as Crypto, and you can't destroy a building. However, the second you get into the saucer, that's when you really can destroy buildings. I even destroyed a building by throwing people into it. Like, I threw one person in the building and the whole thing caught on fire, It's things like that. I just feel like if the military was coming in and they really wanted to kill me so bad that they deploy like mech robots, then I feel like collateral damage isn't really necessarily a thing that they're thinking about. And I just would have liked to see, like, maybe them throw a grenade and a freaking fence explodes, or maybe a light post falls over. I can't even destroy a light post in this game. Maybe I'm just being nitpicky, but things like that, like back in its original release, I can understand why these things are missing. But now, considering it was completely remade, I feel like these things should have been added, Do I wish these details were included in the game? Of course, I would have liked to see some, even just like, decals on the ground, like maybe if a car hits it, like a little crack, or if the plasma hits a wall, maybe just a little blue mark or a red mark around it, something like that, Does it ruin the game? Of course not. Oh, hell no. No, this game's super fun. It's still Destroy All Humans. Like, that's the thing. It's 100% a just remake of the original game with more details added to bring it to modern, I guess, standards and playability. It's great. I loved it. And even just hearing like the original voices, like hearing Pox and Crypto arguing the ship for the first time, it just, holy shit, like it felt so good just hearing them again. I 100% recommend, and it's only $30. Like it's a remake. It really shouldn't be full price, but it is a full entire remake. They remade the whole game. But yeah, it's only $30. I 100% recommend you guys check this out. Really, it's super fun. If you haven't played the original Destroy All Humans, here you go. You're basically playing it now. I mean, of course, get the PS2 version because that's super fun too. But you have it now. But anyway, thanks for sticking around all the way through. If you really like this, please hit the subscribe button. That would help me out a lot. Or actually, even more than that, if you think anyone else likes this, share. And then have them subscribe also. But anyway, I've been Chase, and I'm off.